the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pre-Friday. Thanks for joining us on DC News Now. At 9, I'm Susan Tran.
We're almost there.
Almost there.
You can feel it. You can also feel the cold out there tonight. It is windy. It is chilly. Let's get a check on the forecast now with Chief Meteorologist Janessa Webb. Janessa, boy, it is brutal right now.
Yeah, and really the daylight hours didn't matter, right? People are usually, it's cooler when you have the sun setting in the dark. It didn't matter this afternoon. Wind chills are very tough across the entire region due to very gusty conditions that you're noticing right now, up to 30 miles per hour for DC. It stretches into western Maryland, down towards southern Maryland as well. And so this is going to be a big issue going into tomorrow. We're under criteria stage of a wind advisory to be put in place, but still makes things super uncomfortable across the entire region. Here's your air temperature, 21 to 25 from Manassas out towards Westminster and Anne Arundel County. And so that doesn't look too bad, right? But when you factor in those winds that you just saw, it feels like 3 degrees to single digits out towards Kaiser, 14 for DC metro area, out towards Frederick, the plateau areas, the higher elevation in the teens. Folks, all these numbers tonight, we are headed for dropping a few more degrees, but most areas will be into the single digits. It's a tough start to your Friday morning. Kiddos at the bus stop, you'll need the gloves, the hat, the extra layers. That is definitely going to be key. We have a lot of sunshine on the board. More on that forecast coming up.
All right, we'll see you then. Janessa, a live look right now at the White House. Today, a federal judge refusing to temporarily block the Trump administration's mass layoff of federal workers. The ruling came during a lawsuit brought by 5 unions, which will still move forward. The judge says the unions must bring their claims under federal employment law rather than in district court. So with so many federal workers here in the DMV out of a job, we're seeing a campaign to let them know there are resources ready to help,
including how to file for unemployment benefits and guidance for transitioning possibly over to the private sector. DC News Now's Max Marcilla joining us live in the studio with that part of the story.
And Max, you spoke the head of a career center in Northern Virginia. And what did they say the last few weeks have been like?
Really, this person said nothing like he's ever seen before in his 44 years of work. He says, look, usually federal agencies provide steady employment for many people in this region, but now many of those people are looking for jobs.
Fortunately, I'm a little bit older and I have some savings to live off of, but you know, those are going to go quick.
John Berg's sudden and unexpected loss of income and his concern over what comes next is a story shared by many as cuts to the federal workforce continue.
And I'm still waiting for my unemployment claim to be approved by the state of Maryland.
The uncertainty has led people to cut back on expenses, maybe move out of the area or even pursue a career change, and there are agencies now lining up to help.
With news day after day of more and more layoffs from federal agencies, we're starting to ramp up.
David Hunn, executive director of Virginia CareerWorks Northern Region, says they haven't seen a huge number of fired federal workers coming in. They've seen some and are expecting more.
We would hope that with the resources that we have in this region, with the educational institutions, the cultural institutions, the many thousands of jobs that are available now, that there would be a reason for someone to stay in the Washington area.
VCW is helping former public servants update resumes, find openings, and practice interviews, possibly for career changes to the private sector or nonprofits. And still, fired federal workers and contractors like John Berg are still reeling from the layoffs.
We want to pay taxes, we want to serve the American people, but when you're sacked because of politically motivated, ideologically motivated decisions, that hurts Americans.
Now, Virginia CareerWorks is promoting a number of resources on their website, not only their own, also information on how fired workers can get help with health insurance, household expenses, and unemployment benefits. Now, John Berg, the person you heard in that story who was fired as a contractor from USAID, he said one of his biggest concerns is protections for these federal government contractors who lost their jobs.
And there are so many of them at this point. All right, Max Marcella, thank you so much. And we continue to talk about IRS workers as well, who are set to lose their jobs.
Yeah, as we reported last night, as many as 7,000 newer hires. Now, these are probationary workers. They will be laid off. Some Republicans say Democrats have used the IRS to weaponize the federal government and say under the Biden administration, the agency targeted wealthy Americans who failed to pay their taxes. Democrats say the increased enforcement was needed to recover more than $1 billion in unpaid taxes, and they call this workforce cut retaliatory.
Trump and Republicans have eviscerated so many of our institutions in order to cater to the whims of billionaires.
We've never seen a more weaponized federal government.
Federal officials argue the cuts could slow down the much-needed modernization of the IRS.
And the Washington Post tonight reporting President Trump is going to fire the leadership board of the United States Postal Service and take control of that agency. It says he plans to absorb the independent mail agency into his own administration. The move could throw the Postal Service and trillions of dollars of e-commerce transactions into turmoil. The president is expected to issue an executive order as soon as this week. Well, there's mixed reaction tonight in the district to the president's latest comments about taking over D.C.'s government.
Mayor Muriel Bowser, who quite often is very careful about how she speaks about the president, gave a measured and somewhat reassuring response. DC News Now's Daniel Hamburg joining us live outside of the Wilson building tonight.
Yeah, so Daniel, just how realistic is a takeover?
Chris and Susan, D.C. operates a budget of about $20 billion. So realistically, Congress probably doesn't have the patience or the resources to deal with this, currently run by a council and a mayor. But the idea of ending home rule after all this time has some anxious. Aboard Air Force One Wednesday night, President Trump suggested ending 5 decades of D.C. home rule.
I think that we should govern District of Columbia. It's so important, the D.C. situation. I think that we should run it strong, run it with law and order.
That doesn't sit well with a lot of people who live and work here.
I think that's really scary. You know, we're in a very sensitive time right now, and I think comments that are that extreme can really lead to drastic consequences.
In response to Trump's comments, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is punching back.
We are a well-run city. We balance our budgets. We have AAA bond rating.
Bowser says she's strategic in her comments toward Trump, but in this case...
Of course it's frustrating, and we think it's also wrong.
I like the mayor. I get along great with the mayor. But they're not doing the job. Too much crime, too much graffiti, too many tents on the lawns of these magnificent lawns.
Some agree with the president.
I mean, if it helps, yeah. If it cleans up the graffiti and the homelessness. So I think he's taking good steps now. I think taking over is a little bit much, but it's just kind of how he is.
For many, a takeover isn't productive.
Any help that he could provide the city would be much more constructive than taking it over.
Now, of course, Congress still has to approve the laws passed by the D.C. Council, and in rare cases, they do overturn those laws. In the case that we saw recently with the council rewriting D.C.'s crime code. Now, it is to be seen if the president is serious about this or it's just another talking point. We're live in Northwest. Daniel Hamburg, D.C. News Now.
All right, Daniel. So in the president's remarks about taking over D.C. government, he cited crime as a reason. Police in the district say that we've seen historic 35% drop in violent crime last year, but there was a 33% increase in homicides that started the new year. Overall, though, crime was seen as the lowest in more than 2 decades. Most notably, they say there was a 49% drop in armed carjackings in 2024. Police credit more data-driven patrolling, strategic initiatives, and critical investment in technology.
We have an update tonight in Virginia. It was flying embers that started this fire at a kids' sports center in Woodbridge last year. Firefighters say a lithium battery charger outside of a home sparked that fire, and strong wind gusts carried embers over to the Kids' Choice Sports building. Nobody was hurt, and officials say it's considered an accidental fire. Coming up here in DC News.